Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining this trade mission Q&A for TTA. So we are running 2 trade missions this year. We are planning to run a trade mission first to China, and then almost straight away afterwards we will be planning a trade mission for Saudi Arabia. We're going to cover a bit about general trade missions, what they're for, why we do them, and then we're also going to add a little bit about what you'd specifically hopefully get out of participating in either trade mission, and then we'll give a bit of an introduction to both markets specifically. I know there are some people who are considering both trade missions, and obviously some people have got an interest only in one particular market or the other, and they are both very different markets but with a substantial amount of opportunity. So first of all, what is a trade mission? So trade missions are organized trips with groups of delegates that are traveling to a foreign target market in order to generate more business and to grow their business in that market, or to enter that market for the first time, or to evaluate whether they would like to enter that market for the first time. Okay, so for us, our metric for success for a trade mission is that at least half of the delegates make progress in their entering or expansion in a particular market. Now, for us, that still counts if you decide you want to look into it, working in a particular market, and you're going to travel there to investigate it. Even if you come back and say, actually, now I know about this market, I've decided I don't want to work there. Now, obviously, that's a bit of a shame if that happens and you've spent the money and you realize it's not for your business. But actually, it's probably a lot better for your business to go work out if the market is appropriate for you or not, and then make a decision quickly than it is to spend 12 or 18 months of, oh yeah, I'm going to expand into this market one day. I'm still preparing. I'm planning some more things. And actually, you're distracting yourself from your core business if you then realize actually your product or service is not going to be relevant there. So for us, hopefully, many of the people that travel with us on trade missions, and we have run trade missions in the past, we'll talk about that in a second. People that have traveled on trade missions then get a chance to learn more about the market they're visiting. They get to network and meet with different business people that work in that market. Very often, those people you meet on a trade mission are not the people you will necessarily do business with directly. But what you're doing is you're also learning from their experience in the market, their business model, what they share with you about what works and what doesn't work, what the clients are like in that market, what schools are like in that market, and how education works generally. So it's very important to consider that you're not going into a trade mission and expecting to do a sales pitch for every single person you meet. That is not how it works. But the idea is that you will make good connections. You'll get a great deal of knowledge about the market, the practical realities of working there, how you could export there, whether you would need to have people on the ground, what sorts of people you'd need to have on the ground, etc. And then we also try and help people to make connections that will be productive for them in the long run. Now, the International Partner Program is the core backbone of TTA's International Business Development Support from January this year. The International Partner Program addresses a number of the problems that people have said that they've had. First of all, it includes all of the template contracts that you need for either reselling your services into a foreign market, or if you wish, you can resell the services of foreign partners into the UK or into other markets where you work. So the International Partner Program gives you the free template legal documentation, which is included within the fee. And it also includes introductions to international partners that TTA works to accumulate over time. And we've got about 12 international partners currently, and we've got about 7 in the pipeline that are joining in various stages. No, about 9 or 10 now. And the International Partner Program helps us to continue the support for members that are looking to grow their business overseas around a trade mission, because obviously a trade mission is a specific point in time. Obviously, there's going to be preparation and follow-up, but we want to be able to support you all year round with whichever target markets you want to work in. So the trade missions themselves, what is the point and what can you get from the trade mission? So the point of a trade mission, as we've discussed, you're going to try and develop your business there. Obviously, you will also get an interesting experience. You'll be fully immersed in the market. They will be full on. For example, with China, we're doing in 12 days, we're visiting 4 cities. So it will be quite intensive. You will realize that you're unpacking and then packing back up again quite quickly. There will be a lot of meetings, but hopefully in that way, we get to give you a sense of the different markets and the different places in China where you could start working. The cities are quite different. Hong Kong is extremely different to mainland China, which is also, there's a huge difference between Shenzhen and Beijing, and also Shanghai. So it will be well worth you experiencing each city if you can participate in the whole trade mission for the China trade mission. If we talk a little bit about China specifically before we move on, China obviously is a very large potential education market. It is potentially shrinking at the moment. So with a combination of demographics, there are simply fewer young people in many cases now. And also in terms of economics and in terms of geopolitical situation and whether Chinese people want to travel abroad as much or whether they feel like the opportunities in their home country are as good or more appropriate for them. But there is still a very large market in China for people that want to travel and work and study overseas. And this includes for schooling, and it also includes for university. So there are different sides to that market. And there's obviously an interest in China in English language training and international curriculum. So there's many people that are going to international schools in China. China, while they did crack down on the international school regulations, there are still many, many hundreds of international schools in China offering, many of them, British qualifications and curricula. I'm not going to dwell too much on China and right now. I know that we'll take questions from people if you've got specific questions, but we'll move on to the other trade mission we're running, which is very soon afterwards. We're going to be visiting Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is also quite a large market. It's sometimes people describe it as being similar to where the UAE was and Dubai was maybe 20 or 30 years ago, which I think is not quite accurate. The Saudi market is both a lot larger, but also a lot more dispersed than the UAE. One thing that is very interesting is that Saudi Arabia has a very great interest in growing international education within the country. They've got an aspiration as part of their Vision 2030 to develop a lot of human capital, which basically means educating people and providing them with skills and knowledge. And they've got a real interest in growing the footprint of international schools. The Saudi ministry team, which I've met, have said to me they want to build 1,200 schools by 2030. 1,200 schools, international schools. The majority of those, probably 50 to 60%, would probably offer a British curriculum. If we look at how their current international schooling picture is at the moment. The rest will probably be a mixture of American and IB, mostly. There'll be some that probably offer Egyptian or other. But a substantial proportion of their international schooling is likely to be British curriculum schooling. They have a huge shortage of staff in the international schooling sector, and it's going to get worse because obviously if you build all these schools and you need to fill them up with teachers, that's going to be a challenge. A large proportion of the teachers in Saudi Arabia tend to not be British. Now, obviously, there are some British teachers in Saudi Arabia, but lots of the teachers in Saudi Arabia will end up being Egyptian, Lebanese, Syrian, Sudanese, or from other parts of the Gulf. And so they've got a real interest in bringing international expertise into the country, whether it's to be delivered online, whether it's to be co-teaching with teachers on the ground in Saudi Arabia, or whether it's to provide teacher training or to provide summer schools. All of these things are in high demand in Saudi Arabia, and the demand is growing. Saudi Arabia does have a bit of a reputation for being quite a conservative Islamic country. It is a fairly conservative Islamic country. It is still, for example, illegal to transport alcohol or pork into the country for any reason, even if you're an expatriate. But Saudi Arabia has modernized enormously in the last 5, 10, 15 years. From 10, 15 years ago, when it still had religious police, effectively, to now, there's been enormous change. And you can really get a sense for how much Riyadh is growing, because you can drive around Riyadh and see entire areas of desert which are just covered in cranes. And the construction is quite impressive. The growth is very, very impressive. A lot of this growth is coupled with the improvement in the economic situation, lots and lots of investment, but also they're looking to expand across the board, and that includes especially education and training. So whether you're offering education for school-age students, or whether you're offering something at university level or for vocational training, there will be a lot of opportunities in Saudi Arabia as well. So we're going to move a bit further on now to how does the trade mission actually work? How does each trade mission actually work? What are we planning to do? And then we'll take some questions as well, and have a few more things we're going to contribute from a couple of people I think on the call. So how the trade missions are planning to work. With China, the trade mission will begin in Beijing. Beijing is where we will most likely meet head offices of various companies. Obviously, Beijing is the capital city of China. There will be an opportunity for an excursion as well. And then we'll spend only 1 or 2 days in Beijing before we then move on to Shanghai. All of the internal transfers in China will be by high-speed rail. So there's no need to worry about baggage allowance on internal flights. Okay, obviously your flight there and back is you'll sort that out yourself. If you're bringing 50 kilos of baggage, make sure you can pay the fare to get the airline to carry it for you. But within the country, we're not doing any internal flights so that there's no restriction on baggage weight. But you obviously need to be able to carry your own bags. We'll transfer from Beijing into Shanghai. Shanghai is a huge tier 1 city on the east coast of China. We'll visit a mixture of some international schools, but also we'll try and make sure we arrange a meeting with the Shanghai Tutoring and Training Association. The Shanghai Training Association is one of the most significant representative bodies for training and tuition providers in China. At this point, it's probably worthwhile pointing out something which some of you may be aware of. China has a double reduction policy, which some people in the West have just labeled the tuition ban. Now, it's not quite as straightforward and simple as this. Tuition in mainstream curriculum subjects from up to and including grade 9 is banned in China. However, and the purpose of this, the reason why it's called double reduction is because it's number one, to reduce the workload on students, because before the double reduction policy came in, some students were being booked in to do lots and lots of hours of tuition every single day. And so it was too much workload for them. And the second was that it was to reduce the burden on parents financially, because parents were feeling guilty in China, where education is very much, it has a very high social value and social reputation culturally. The parents were feeling compelled that they should spend more and more of their disposable income on sending their children to these extra lessons, and their children are just working too hard. So China implemented the double reduction policy. They're reducing the workload on students and they're reducing the financial burden on parents. This does not apply to subjects that are outside of the mainstream national curriculum. So for maths, obviously that's the extra tuition for maths was banned. But for other subjects, like if you want to do STEM, or if you want to do a robotics club, or if you want to do English language training was specifically carved out of this. This is not included. But also for international qualifications, our best understanding at the minute is that mostly China has not really focused on trying to enforce the double reduction policy with regard to international schools and international qualifications. Number one, this is a small proportion of China's education system. China obviously has about 1.3 billion people. Only a very small proportion do go to international schools. And number two, I don't get the impression from any of the partners who've spoken to that international schools were implied to have the same level of problem that was existing in the mainstream Chinese curriculum. So international curriculum tuition is not really a problem. The Chinese government can change their mind at any point. So obviously there's no way I can guarantee to you that they won't introduce more regulatory restrictions or change what the regulatory restrictions are or change how they enforce them. However, international curriculum delivery has been popular and it continues to grow from the partners that we've worked with. So we'll then visit Shanghai. We'll engage with different partners there. We'll then visit Shenzhen. Shenzhen is in the southeast of the country. And the general rule that many of the partners we've worked with in China have said is that the further you get from Beijing, the less stringently perhaps the laws seem to apply. Obviously, technically, the same rules apply all over China, but obviously, there is a clear interest in international education in places like Shenzhen, where there are international colleges, there are international schools, just like there are in Shanghai, and there is a great deal of interest in working with international partners to deliver some of that good quality provision. So we'll then visit Shenzhen. Now, after Shenzhen, we will transfer to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is a special administrative region of China. This means that since 1997, when the transfer of sovereignty took place between the UK and China, Hong Kong has been part of the People's Republic of China in terms of sovereignty, but it has been administered under separate rules. So this means that the rules in Hong Kong are different to the rest of China, and therefore many of the same restrictions don't apply in the same way. Okay. There's also cultural differences in Hong Kong. People there, for example, speak many more people there will speak Cantonese than will speak than obviously people in mainland China mostly will speak Mandarin, and they will use simplified Chinese more commonly, whereas in mainland China everyone will use they will use traditional Chinese in Hong Kong, whereas in mainland China they will use simplified Chinese. Okay, so there are some other differences as well, but the main difference is in terms of the laws and the regulations, which in Hong Kong are different. So whereas, for example, you have the Great Firewall, which will block many Western technology providers like Google, for example, will be blocked in mainland China. This will not apply in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong has got a slightly liberalized and a different approach to its education system. But there is still a great deal of cultural value placed on education, and there is a lot of interest in education. Obviously, the market in Hong Kong is simply smaller because it is a much smaller city. When you compare it to places like Shenzhen, Shanghai, and the rest of mainland China, which is huge by comparison. Okay, I'm going to take the chance now just to pause. If anyone's got a specific question about what we've said about China, we can address that before we go on to discuss the schedule for Saudi Arabia. No? Oh, that's Julia's putting in the China Trade Mission registration form. Just to be clear on the dates for the China Trade Mission, it is from the 13th of September, which is a Sunday, until the 22nd of September. And you would be entering China in Beijing and leaving from Hong Kong. Okay. If you want to fly from Hong Kong back to Beijing and get a return flight from there, that's fine. But we will be starting the mission in Beijing and we will be ending in Hong Kong. Moving onwards, we're going to talk briefly about Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Trade Mission. So the Saudi Trade Mission will start on Saturday the 20th. I'm going to try and get this date right without checking my calendar, so I'm going to double check it. Saturday the 28th, I believe. No, Saturday the 26th, sorry. Saturday the 26th of September will be the start of the Saudi Trade Mission. That will be starting in Riyadh, and we'll be spending the entire trade mission, which is a bit shorter, about 1 week, 6 days, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Now, Riyadh is the capital city of Saudi Arabia. It is probably the fastest growing part of Saudi Arabia, although there are other parts of Saudi which are also very interesting. And Riyadh, Riyadh is also, because it's the capital city, it's where all the ministries are based, and there are a large number of international schools in and around Riyadh as well. We also have a partner in Riyadh, which is London Education Centre. So Mr. Mansif Ibrahim is actually one of the TTA members that's based on the ground in Saudi Arabia, and also will help us to host a meeting for us with his education centre, and is also an international partner and interested in working with any potential international partners, people on the international partner program. Now, Saudi Arabia, again, the main focus there will be on the growth in the international education which is taking place. You'll get a chance to meet different people within different school groups. We will also be taking part in GES Riyadh, GES Saudi Arabia. So GES is an event, an education-focused event that is run by a company called Informa. GES Dubai is quite well known and has been running for a number of years. GES Saudi is, I think, in its second or third year. It was due to take place earlier in April, but it was cancelled and postponed due to the due to the Iran conflict. Guest Saudi is a relatively new event, so they're quite enthusiastic about trying to get new people to come there. However, because the Saudi education market is growing quite rapidly, I feel like it will be a very interesting event for delegates to be at. However, we won't only be attending for Guest Riyadh, as well as visiting Guest Riyadh and exploring some of the education providers and some of the other partners that are working on the ground in Riyadh. We'll be meeting a range of different providers within Saudi Arabia, schools, but also other education providers and technology businesses, who will be able to give us a perspective on what the education market is in Saudi Arabia, how they see it changing, and where they think you could potentially play a role. There will likely be a number of Saudi partners who would be interested in working with different UK tuition specialists to provide to resell services for you. So we've had a lot of interest from some of those already, and so while we're on that mission, you'll have a chance to meet these contacts, and some of them are already on the IPP anyway, and you'll hopefully get a chance to understand both how does it work practically and commercially, as well as what is the regulatory picture looking like. The regulatory side of it is not quite so restricted, but there are still grey areas of regulations in Saudi Arabia, because things like, for example, online schooling, they don't yet have a picture of what the regulation for online schooling is going to look like. They are also in the ministry planning on bringing out regulations for private tuition, and we are having a discussion with them about what those might look like. They're still at an early stage. They don't even have a draft they can show us yet, or they're happy to show us, but there is something that they are working on. So they are looking to formalize private tuition within the Saudi market, which a few years ago was banned, right? A few years ago it was just not allowed, and it has been liberalized slightly, and they're looking to sort of refine what that's going to be. We're joined on the call by Munir Mamiji, who's actually who's an export champion, who's been working in Saudi Arabia for many, many years, many more than me. And I'm going to actually ask Munir if he's happy to say, first of all, a couple of words on Saudi, and then second of all, a couple of words on trade missions in general and how to get the most out of them. So,
yeah,
Munir,
no worries.
over to you. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. So just a bit of context. I've done over 35 trade missions all around the world, and I've been in Saudi. I've been working in Saudi for over 20 years. So I've seen huge change in Saudi, and I was supposed to be on the last TTA trade mission, which unfortunately, for reasons outside of our control, was cancelled. I've also attended guests in Riyadh, the first one, which was last year. And I will echo what John says. It's a really, really good event. The benefit you've got with Guest Saudi over Guest Riyadh, over Guest Dubai, is it's a lot smaller. So it's easier to get around, easier to network. So it's a really, really good event to meet international school leaders, technology partners. So that'll be a really, really good event. Saudi itself, as John mentioned, it's huge. It's the size of Western Europe, hence why we're only going to go to Riyadh. But there's so many opportunities in Riyadh, not just with international schools that we work with, but also FE colleges, training centres, EdTech, everything. Riyadh is bonkers. I'm not going to lie, it is crazy. So you need to have your wits about you. It's not the place that you can go for a walk. A, there's no footpaths for a start, and B, it will be rather warm. But the people are extremely welcoming. It's a fantastic place, and I absolutely love it. The hospitality is excellent. What they're looking for, and what I've noticed when I've been on trade missions and also when I've been on my own, is you need to be clear about what it is you can offer. Because what you might offer in the UK or in another international market might not be what you should be offering in Saudi. I will pop my details into the chat on this webinar. So if anyone wants to contact me individually afterwards, I've got no issues whatsoever. So all I would say is think about what you've got. Think about how that will translate into a Saudi market or into a wider GCC market. And then those become your defined USPs for this mission. listen to what they will tell you. The Arabic culture is such that they are extremely polite. If you want to go off on a tangent and talk to them, they'll let you, but they probably won't respond to any other communication from you afterwards. So you've got to be very clear, listen to what they want, do your research before you go into each organization, have a think about how you can tailor your products. It might be different from one organization to another. Also, just more general about trade missions, is collaborate with each other as well. I'll be on that mission as well to Saudi. And I can't stress enough, collaborate with each other, learn from each other, because you never know. You might be able to come up with a solution where 2 of us, 3 of us, 4 of us all work together as well. So don't work in silos, all work together. It's a really good opportunity to network, meet each other, share best practice, and come up with solutions that maybe you on your own wouldn't be able to do with a Saudi organization. And then the final thing I would just say is, I think a lot of people on this call, as I am, we're owner managers, and it's very difficult sometimes to disassociate ourselves from our UK business when we're overseas. But you've got to. I always say you've got to be in the moment. So it's no point being on a trade mission physically if you're not there mentally, because they are hard work. You could be out all day, every night as well. So you can't be, unfortunately, turn around going, no, I'm really sorry, I've got a tuition session at 7 o'clock UK time, I can't meet you. We're only there for a finite amount of time, and you've just got to try and manage your in-country time accordingly, shall we say. Okay, I'll pop some details in the chat, just for my contact details. If anyone wants to get hold of me afterwards, I've got no objection. John, that's it. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Munir. And I'll just say, look, Munir's advice is gold dust. Munir really does know what he's talking about, and we're really pleased to work with Munir on this, because he's been there, done it many times. The trade missions themselves, as Munir will definitely corroborate, they involve a fair deal of preparation in advance, in terms of what can you offer, how can you adapt it, what flexibility do you have, because you'll be asked to do things and ask questions about what you can offer that are not what you necessarily expected. And also the follow-up. If you never bother chasing any of these people up or messaging them ever again, they're not just going to try and stuff money in your wallet. You are going to need to follow up with them, engage with them. We will do our best as TTA to make that process as smooth as possible. We do what I think is a fantastic job, and you can judge for yourselves. But we put a lot of effort into trying to make sure that every step of the process we can support you, from the initial introductions, whether it's to potential partners you can just learn from, whether it's people you might actually work with, to being in the market, hearing from parents, hearing from people that can explain to you what the ways are to access that market, what social media channels work, what doesn't work, and all the way through to the follow-up, the contracts, and everything up to the point where you're basically going to start doing the business and you don't need our help anymore. We try to help with so much of this process to make your lives easier, and for a price which is about half the cost of most other trade missions I've seen, unless they've been heavily subsidized by the government or something. So we really try and make sure that you've got as much support as possible, but it doesn't replace your hard work, your effort to actually say, no, I'm going to set aside all of these 6 days or these 12 days to actually focus on this trade mission. That's what's going to make the big difference. We can't magically make these people drop into your lap. We can give you the best possible chance, right? So that's how we're going to work this, and that's how these trade missions operate. So please do listen to Munir's advice. Please set aside the time on the trade mission as far as you can to be separate from your UK work. Make sure somebody in the UK is handling that for you, or you've made sure you've informed people you're not going to be around, and make sure you can then focus on getting as much as you can from the mission. And just to reiterate another thing that Munir said, collaborating with each other, people that went on some of the earlier trade missions, whether it's to China or to the Middle East, they've come back and almost unanimously they've said, actually, one of the best things about the trade mission was the other people, the other delegates they met while they were there, many of whom have now years down the line been working together for various different things, whether it's to a great extent or a lesser extent. Many of them have shared good ideas or changed what they've been doing, or even in one case, I think someone's changed the entire direction of their business because of the discussions they had on the trade mission. But it wasn't the discussions with the partners, the Chinese people in China. It was with the discussions with the other delegates they went with that made them think, hang on a minute, I can do this a better way. So really try and get the most out of working together with the delegates. We do say this every time, but actually we've never found this to be a big problem, and thankfully so. You'll be going there with people who are nominally your competitors, but in reality, you're a team. And you shouldn't worry too much about, well, somebody else can offer GCSE maths tuition. If both Saudi Arabia and China are enormous markets, there is no shortage of demand for good quality tuition, especially with we're likely to bring no more than 30 delegates, right? You're not going to manage to completely max out the supply of the entire Chinese market with only 30 delegates. So don't go there thinking, well, I've got to try and get one over the other guy who's also offering maths tuition. Honestly, there's no need to do that, and it's actually far better. Your experience will be better, and the experience of the delegates, the partners we meet in China or Saudi Arabia will be better if you're working together. And there'll be plenty of things where you go, you know what, they're asking me for something which is not my specialist area. Let me introduce you to my friend who can actually do that much better than me. And you'll build these kinds of relationships on the trade mission, which is what we've seen in the past. So we're using as much as we can all of our previous experience from organizing and participating in trade missions to make sure that you've got the easiest chance of developing your business in a foreign market and navigating all of the complexities of doing that. Munir, is there anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
No, nothing really. I think you made the point about planning before you go, but also having the time afterwards to do all the follow-ups, because otherwise it defeats the whole point of going. So there's a lot of commitment to going on a trade mission. So that's all I would say, really. But like I say, my details are in the chat. Drop me a line afterwards if anyone wants to have a word.
Yeah, and if you do need further help with that, then there are people like Munir or Steve Whitley who can potentially support you in helping you to do that and giving you more capacity. So you can contact people to ask for extra help if you want. Now, we're going to go briefly through what the options are for trade missions, because we do offer 3 options. Before we do that, I know we've got a question from Alex. Are we planning a standard guess? No. So TTA is not itself planning a standard guess. We have already asked the organizers if they could do a special rate for TTA delegates who wanted to get their own stand. We will let you know as soon as they get back to us on that. But we're not planning to have a stand ourselves. What we will plan to do is to make sure we can have a bit of a guided tour so that we can explore the different providers of guests. Hopefully, guests have indicated they will run this for us, although they did also indicate this for Guest Dubai and didn't do it last time we were there. Alex, do you want to add something else to that question?
Yeah, hi everyone. I was having a chat with Steve yesterday, who I think did the excellent presentation last week. And one of the things he said was that I think it may have been TTA or a different trade association had done a stand at Guest Dubai where there were a whole number of people represented. And what I was wondering, and again, it's really a question for everyone on this call, was whether we could ask the TTA to find some way where all of us together could represent ourselves, because I know budgets are tough, you know, particularly if you're a small business like mine or if you're an individual tutor. There may be some way that we could work jointly together to put forward our services, but under the umbrella of the TTA to sort of, get the economies of scale. Just a thought to throw out there.
It's a good thought, and it's not something that's completely alien to what we've done before. So we have, for example, exhibited at BET London and gone with particular people that wanted to chip in to contribute some of the cost, because like with many of these events, the fees to exhibit are generally quite high. So depending on the exact event, you could be expecting anything from £1,000 or £2,000 up to 9,000-10,000, and it can go up. Some people like Google and Microsoft will pay £500,000 or something on a ridiculous village that they build within one of these events. Obviously that's quite high, and we appreciate that obviously people would want to get a good deal. If you are interested in this, please email us. If you email me, which is john@thetutorsassociation.org.uk, and copy in info at, then if you are coming on the trade mission, you'd like to exhibit, I guess, I can just gauge numbers and see what might be possible. We're happy to look into it if there's a number of people that want to do it. No guarantees at this stage that we'll be able to do it, or that it's something that will definitely work. Part of it depends on the organisers playing ball as well, which obviously it's not inside our control. But if it is something that we've got a couple of people that do want to do that, then yes, it's something we can look into. I was about to say something else before I forgot, and I answered your question, Alex. Does anyone remember what I was just about to say?
Were you about to talk about the options, John?
Oh, the options. Yes, that's it. No, apologies. So TTA offers 3 options for participating in trade missions, because we recognize that some people have got different levels of need and different levels of budget and the different abilities to commit. So the first option is option 1. Option 1 is what we call the all-inclusive option, but this is not all-inclusive in terms of a holiday, right? We're not sitting there giving you ice cream and beers on the beach. All-inclusive means that the internal travel within the market and the accommodation and the meetings are all included in one package. Okay, food and drink you will purchase for yourselves, and souvenirs, whatever else you want, you can purchase yourselves. But the actual train travel, or well, it's only going to be rail travel for China. The travel within the market and accommodation will all be covered from the beginning to the end of the trade mission. So option 1 is the all-inclusive option. If you do need to extend your stay, then we can just extend it for a cost price and just bill you whatever the cost price rate is. So we do sometimes get a better deal by going through option 1, because obviously we're booking for a number of people at the same time. Sometimes we can get a discounted rate for all of the option 1 delegates. Not always, but usually we can. If we can do that and you want to stay a couple of extra days, obviously we can pass that discounted rate on to you. So that's option 1. Option 2 is the meetings only option. So some people, they want to come, but they've got so many points with some hotel chain, they want to stay in their own hotel, or they want to stay in a cheaper or a more expensive hotel. Tends to be that the option 1 hotel will tend to be pretty good anyway. It will normally be a 4 or 5 star hotel. It might not be the most extravagant hotel in the world, but it certainly won't be completely budget. It should be perfectly adequate for our needs. Ideally, if we do a good job, you won't spend very much time in your hotel room anyway, because we will be giving you such an action-packed schedule that you'll be out meeting people most days. But if you do want to pick your own hotel, or you've got points, or you want to do whatever else, then we've got a meetings only option. You will sort out your own accommodation and your own internal travel. So, for example, in China, you'd sort out your own travel between Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong. But the fee covers all of the participation in meetings, all of the organization, all of the events that we will host. We'll normally host some regional events while we're there. And then the last option is representation only. So with every trade mission, we produce a brochure, a professionally produced brochure, which we distribute in digital and in sometimes printed form to all of the partners that we work with in the region. It's a nice way to make sure that all of the people that we meet in the target market get to hear a bit about what we're doing. We do then translate it both from English for Chinese, obviously for China, and also into Arabic for Saudi Arabia, so that people who we meet will get a chance to read about your business in their own language as well. And we will then distribute that with your contact details in it to all of the different partners that we meet. And sometimes there will be partners that we can't meet for a particular reason. They might not be based in that part of the country, but we will distribute that to those different individuals. Now, if you want to be in the trade mission brochure, but you can't commit to traveling on the trade mission itself, you still have a place to put your details and to put your contact details as well. So a bit of a description about your business and your contact details. And it's obviously a lot cheaper And we will then include you in any further follow-up. We will include you with details of all the meetings that we take part in, who they're with, who we met, what they do, and what they're interested in. We will give you an update around any developments in that market. And if there are any UK events that are specific to that market, then we will also invite option 3 delegates to those events as well. All of the different options require you to be a member of the IPP, because that's the base level of support that we offer to everyone who wants to do internationalization. There's a nominal cost to the IPP, and it's an annual fee. For a company, it's £400 a year, and for an individual, it's £100 a year. That cost includes full licensing for all of the legal documentation. So that saves you about £5,000 to £10,000 to start off with. You don't have to go through any complex negotiation. All of the IPP partners that we introduce you to will already have agreed to these legal documents anyway. So the only thing you should need to negotiate there would be the rates. So the commercial details. How much are you going to charge? How much are they going to take as a commission, etc. So all of the options require you to be a member of the IPP, but you only need to join the IPP once. It's an annual subscription. We will continue to try and work to support you to receive that support on an ongoing basis, including before and after the trade mission itself. People sometimes say, why is the IPP an extra cost when I've paid to be a member of TTA? The main reason for that is that we know there are some people who have joined TTA, but they don't have an interest in international support. And so this is our way of making sure that actually we keep the support for international development separate from general membership. And so that's the only reason we have the IPP as a separate cost. However, TTA never takes any percentage commission or any other kind of fee for any of the work that you do with any of the partners that you can access through TTA's International Partner Program. We have no other cost that we impose on you other than the IPP fee and the participation for the actual trade mission itself. So where we can try and support you to get a deal with a reseller or with a partner there, or a customer or a school chain, that's all. Everything there is your arrangement with them. There's nothing that TTA has no other involvement in that, unless you need to come back to us because you've got questions or queries around the IPP contracts or around any dispute, where we can obviously play a role to assist. A last logistical point before we open up to any other questions is insurance. Regardless of which trade mission you might be interested in, if you are traveling to the trade mission, it means option 1 or option 2, you must get travel insurance. And this is, we very, very, very strongly recommend you get it from the day that we confirm we will be traveling. If we confirm we are going to be visiting a target market, and 3 weeks later, somebody starts a war in the target market, not pointing any fingers at anybody, okay, I'm sure it's none of you, then we will not be able to guarantee that A, the trade mission can go ahead, or that B, we can refund your fee. Your travel insurance needs to cover several things. Number 1, it needs to cover if you get sick in a foreign market, because your medical bills are not covered by TTA. You have to get travel insurance to make sure you're fully covered in your target market. B, it will cover things like theft. So if your passport gets stolen when you're in China, it's going to be difficult to get back out of the country. It's going to help you and support you with that. Plus, we will be able to assist you by working with the British consulate or the British embassy in that market to try and get you some support. But it also should cover you for cancellation or curtailment. Okay? Cancellation or curtailment, sometimes there are significant differences in what insurance will cover. So some insurance will not cover cancellation and curtailment at all, but it will be 30 quid cheaper. It is probably not worth it to get a £30 cheaper insurance when you are then exposed to the risk that if we can't go to the market and we can't refund you, you then would probably quite wish you'd spent that 30 quid to be able to claim your fee back, as well as any other flight costs, accommodation costs that you had committed to. So we very, very, very strongly recommend to absolutely everybody who wants to participate in a trade mission, get good quality travel insurance. Travel insurance is not normally expensive. Normally, most people, unless you've got complicated prior conditions or whatever else. Normally, it's going to cost you less than £100. It might cost you marginally above. It's normally not going to be very expensive. You should see travel insurance as an essential part of any foreign visit, whether you do it with TTA or not. That's our recommendation. Okay, definitely you need to consider it. Bear in mind, for Saudi Arabia, during the Iran war, Saudi Arabia has been put on the yellow do not visit unless necessary list from the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office. That guidance, technically, as of the last time I checked, which was a couple of days ago, is still in place. Okay, which means that insurers will not cover acts of war. That means if you get hit by a drone, which is extraordinarily unlikely, you're far more likely to get hit by a car, okay? But if you ever got hit by a drone or a missile in any market, your insurance wouldn't cover you. So we need to be completely clear about this with you, and you need to make sure that you check with your insurer if you're not sure what is and what is not covered. However, from my recent experience having been in Riyadh, the Riyadh is very safe. Well, the traffic is not very safe, but there is no current active conflict in Saudi Arabia. There was obviously an attack on Saudi Arabia in mid-late February, which is what caused the previous Saudi mission to be cancelled. However, the ceasefire in the Middle East has meant that the situation is now much calmer. There were 1 or 2 attacks on the UAE a couple of weeks ago. But Saudi Arabia, to the best of my knowledge, has not had any attacks since the ceasefire was announced. And it's looking like it's more likely there will be some kind of permanent peace process than there would be a massive escalation in fighting. If there is an escalation in fighting, we'll keep the situation under review. But obviously, we can't guarantee what Mr. Trump or what the Iranian authorities are going to do. So that's just something we need to bear in mind. My view is that Riyadh is a large city, and when there was an attack, it was very, very limited, and it was limited to only one particular location where there's an American air base. We are not planning to visit any American air bases in the course of our trade mission. I fully expect the trip will be entirely safe. If I felt like it was not entirely safe, I would cancel it. And that's what we did last time. But it's certainly going to be the case that in a large city like Riyadh, traffic is far more of a risk to you than these larger geopolitical risks. China, for its own part, geopolitical risk is still there. There is no reason at the moment to believe that there is going to be any particular reason why we cannot visit China. It is not completely impossible that Xi Jinping or decides he's going to intervene in Taiwan, or there's going to be some other crisis or riot or pandemic, goodness knows, and heaven forbid. If there was a major issue like this, and if we needed to cancel the mission, you would need to claim back your fee from the insurers. So please make sure when you get travel insurance, you check what the cancellation and or curtailment fee, cancellation and curtailment cover is going to be. Any questions on insurance? No. Okay. I'll add one last bit on Bet Asia before we can then leave it open to questions and people can go their separate ways if they don't have any questions. In between Hong Kong on the 22nd and Saudi Arabia on the 26th, Bet Asia will be taking place in Kuala Lumpur on the 23rd and 24th of September this year. It is our expectation that PTA will send one delegate to Bet Asia, and that some delegates from either trade mission may wish to join. It's not part of an organized trip. There's no options involved. We don't currently have any plan to do anything other than to potentially run a small meetup for people who are going, if there are enough people going to merit it. However, if you are interested in going to Bet Asia, it will cover, there'll be exhibitors and delegates from the UK, plus across Southeast Asia and further afield in Kuala Lumpur from the 23rd and on the 23rd and 24th of September. What we will try to do is go and represent TTA and all of our members and people that are on the IPP at BetAsia and try and secure some international partners from BetAsia itself. If you would like to join us, you're very welcome. Please let us know so that we can then bear that in mind as to whether we then plan a bigger event or anything else. If you don't let us know and you'll just turn up on the day in Kuala Lumpur, obviously it's going to be pretty hard for us to plan anything in advance. So if you are interested in attending BetAsia, whether or not you're going on either of the trade missions, although probably you would be going on one of the trade missions if you're interested, then please let us know. Okay. Oh, and Josh said he's going to be there anyway. So Josh, looking forward to seeing you in KL. And if anyone else would like to join us in KL for BetAsia, please let us know, and we will try and sort something out where we can all arrange to meet up. Okay. Last point really is just say that trade missions can be a fantastic way of getting a much better understanding of the market and of building really getting you a foot into the market, which is very, very difficult to do sitting at your desk in the UK. They are a major opportunity. They are an investment. We're very conscious of the fact that there is an expense attached to them. We try and keep that cost as low as possible. We really do as much as we can to try and make sure they're very, very cost effective. And just to put it, for comparison, there is a BESA. So BESA is the British Educational Suppliers Association. Alex, BESA are the people that often run a UK pavilion at some of these trade shows, and I'm sure they'll be there at BetAsia as well. BESA is running a trade mission to Hong Kong and Shenzhen only, and that costs £6,000. Okay. So our trade missions are very, very, very cost effective by comparison. And we try and keep them that way so that people can participate and so that you can get the maximum amount of value out of them. Our success criterion is you guys doing well. Okay. If we didn't think the trade mission was going to be any use to you, we wouldn't run it in the first place. Okay. They are not a holiday, although hopefully you will enjoy yourselves when you're there. And we will pack the schedule as much as we can with different meetings with different partners. It will be intense, but we really hope you'll get a lot out of it, and we believe that you will. Just out of interest, for Saudi Arabia recently, I visited 4 different schools or school chains. All 4 of them agreed they wanted to work more closely with TTA members. 3 of them are joining the IPP in its current format, and 1 wants a separate arrangement whereby everything they do goes through TTA. Their choice, we'll see if we can offer it. There is interest in these markets, and hopefully you can be there to do business with them. So we'll leave it there. I've done far too much talking. Open to anybody else who's either been on a trade mission and would like to make a comment as to how they found it, or anyone who's got any questions about how it might work. Alex has got a question. Could you please outline the partners you think will meet on either trade mission? So already some of the partners, we've started speaking to them. We've had a good response so far. We expect that we will visit a couple of international schools in each market. The international schools will be able to show you how they operate. They're obviously embedded within that education system. They will have a lot of knowledge as to how the education system works in general, what parents are like and what parent behaviors are, which often are different from the UK. International schools are often potential clients as well. In Saudi Arabia, for example, we've had international schools saying they're very interested in co-teaching arrangements whereby they get a UK teacher to support or an international teacher to support with delivery on the ground. We do also have connections with some higher education partners and some partners who work more closely in higher education. For example, when I was in Saudi Arabia in April, we met with the head of innovation at Najran University in the south. He came to Riyadh and we had a discussion. We would try to arrange a meeting with him as well. Plus, we're also one of the international partners is an organization called CHERT. They're embedded within one of the universities, Ibn Al Saud University in Riyadh. They've also got good links with Princess Noor University. The universities in Saudi Arabia are segregated by gender. So Princess Noor is a women's university and Imam Ibn Al Saud is a male university. So there are also going to be connections with higher education and vocational partners. There will also be an opportunity to hopefully meet to participate in regional events where you'll meet a whole range of different stakeholders. It could be expats living in Saudi Arabia. It could be Saudis that have got a particular interest in international education for whatever reason, whether they're investors, they're commercial, they're coming from the education system or whatever it is. We might also, in Saudi Arabia, less likely in China, we might be able to arrange a meeting or some kind of engagement with the Ministry of Education there. I've met them previously when I was in Saudi Arabia in April. They are interested in collaborating with TTA specifically on private tuition regulation and tuition within Saudi Arabia. They haven't yet confirmed a meeting for the September trade mission, but we will be asking them to see if we can set aside some time for us to meet them in the Ministry of Education in Riyadh. And I hope that we'll be kept very busy. Andrew.
Hi. Before the cancelled Saudi trade mission in March, you had quite a good idea of the specific things that Saudi were looking for, and I'm sure that extends to the Saudi mission in September. So for China, do you know if there's specific things that they're particularly after?
There are a couple, but obviously take this with a pinch of salt and bear in mind that this can change. Number one, English language training. There is a need for English language training in China. Obviously, there are a lot of relatively low-cost providers as well, offering IELTS or offering English language training in China. So that it was competitive. However, there will be some clients that will value a more premium approach, which I'm potentially willing to pay a higher price for it. School entrance into the UK. There are Chinese people that send their children to study in boarding schools in the UK. There are Chinese people that plan to live in the UK in the future and therefore may want to transition, and they would likely need support to do that. International school students within China itself, especially if they're covering whether it's IB or a British curriculum, they are very likely to want support, additional support for the qualifications they're taking. If they're going to an international school, they're paying. So many of those people will also be able to afford paying for premium quality international tuition. Also university entrance support. So support applying to UK or international universities, understanding the admissions process, understanding how to what is required, elements of preparation, especially if it's things like Oxbridge or for US universities or for particularly prestigious universities. They would obviously need to do a bit of work to prepare an application for that because those universities are very competitive. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list. There could be lots of other things that Chinese potential partners want to talk to you about. Special educational needs, for example. When we went on the China trade mission in 2024, one or two people came who specialize in offering special educational needs support. They didn't go there with hugely high hopes because they'd expected people in China to say, oh, we don't have any special educational needs, or we don't do that here. But actually, there were a couple of times when people specifically requested, have you got anyone with special educational needs experience? Which I was a little bit surprised by, but they obviously, where there are international schools trying to operate on an international level in terms of SEND provision, if they don't have that provision locally, they may well seek to obtain that support from abroad. There is also a teacher training need in China. I did at one stage get a request from UK government employees within China, so people that work within the Department for Business and Trade, who were saying, oh, there's an interest in teacher training here. Do you have people that can support with this? And I said, yes, we're going to plan a trade mission. Obviously, we hope we can engage with some of those international schools and you can meet them for yourselves. So a bit of a mix. If you're planning to go on any trade mission, as Munir said, work out what it is you can offer. What's your unique selling point? What value can you add? Be aware you may need to be flexible about how that's going to be applied when you actually meet people on the ground. As the British Army say, no plan survives enemy contact. Obviously, they're not the enemy, but the principle still applies. Any other questions at all? No?
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, go on then, Andrew.
One other thing, which is more like logistical, for the purposes of looking at flights and figuring out, what it will cost and therefore what I'm going to do. The China trade mission begins on 13th of September. Does that mean there'll be meetings on the 13th, or we just need to make sure we're there?
We will cover accommodation for option 1 delegates from Saturday the 12th. The evening of Saturday the 12th.
So we should aim to get in on the Saturday evening, or like.
There will be nothing on the Saturday planned. There will be a morning briefing on the Sunday the 13th. But yes, option 1 delegates, you will have a hotel room from Saturday the 12th in the evening.
And the same for Saudi. So if it says starts on 26th, the Saturday, we have a hotel room from the 25th. Is that right?
No, Saudi there will be an afternoon briefing on Saturday the 26th. If you want to arrive the day before, there will be an extra cost to stay on Friday the 25th. So Friday the 25th is not included for Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia, the hotel booking for option 1 delegates will start from Saturday the 26th.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions at all? So just to let you know, Julius has very kindly put in the registration forms for the China trade mission and the Saudi trade mission into the chat. If you're watching this on a recorded, then we will be putting the trade mission registration forms in the comments. So please check those registration forms. That gives you some of the details of the dates. If we need people to register, please, no later than Friday the 19th of June for either trade mission. You've got exactly 1 month. Okay. So 11 p.m. on Friday the 19th of June is when we're going to close the registration for both trade missions. We then will then inform everybody whether the trade missions are definitely going ahead by Wednesday the 24th of June. So we recommend you do not book any you don't make any firm bookings that are non-refundable until Wednesday the 24th of June, when we confirm the trade mission is definitely going ahead. There is a small chance that a trade mission that we've planned won't go ahead. It could be geopolitical reasons, it could be lack of interest, it could be some other problem, and we will let you know one way or the other by the 24th of June. If the trade mission does not go ahead, then the fee that you've paid is fully refundable. We will refund it in full, no query, no quibble. So there's no risk if you want to, if you're paying the deposit, you will be refunded in full if the trade mission is cancelled by us before the 24th of June. However, if we confirm it's going ahead, please make sure you buy travel insurance straight away, because at that point, we're committing to making bookings which may not be refundable. And that means that if the trade mission has to be cancelled for some reason, we may not be able to refund all or any of the money that you paid to us to arrange it. So please ensure that once we confirm the trade mission is going ahead, that's the point where you need travel insurance in place. Okay. Any other questions? I've either done a good job or a terrible job. If there's no other questions, I'm hoping that means you've all got a good understanding of what we're doing. I really look forward to hopefully seeing some of you working in these markets, and it would be my greatest pleasure to see your business grow and thrive working with different partners around the world. I just want to say a quick thank you to Munir and also all of the TTA team as well, Julius, Sam, Myra, and everyone who've been involved in helping to make these a reality. We have got a fairly lean team, and we do work really, really hard to try and make sure we can get all this done for you. We do punch a bit above our weight, I think, in comparison with some other organizations, but hopefully it makes a big impact. So thanks so much, everybody, and look forward to seeing you soon.